On today's episode, we provide 101 pickup lines from the wizarding world of Harry Potter, including our favorites, You've Got Eyes Like a Salamander, or You Don't Look a Day Over 375, as we review Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. That and more on today's episode of The Real Review, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. Everybody, I am here with Joel, Dragon Cat Fabric Beast, Cunningham.
Dragon Cat. I know the Dragon Cat. What's the fabric?
Like the tail was like fabric.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. It kind of looked flowy.
Yeah. Like fabric.
Like fabric.
Like
yeah.
silk.
I like it. That's pretty
like
nice.
Silk fabric.
Here's the big question.
Okay.
If you were offered one of those as a pet, say for Christmas, what would you do?
I don't know, because the cat was cute when it had the little, it was like...
He was pretty friendly, yeah. He's kind of like one of those animals that could be so friendly that he could just kill you accidentally.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
he could
true.
just be like, hey!
And he's like, oh! And he's like poking you like,
exactly.
Like, what happened? What happened, master?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, okay, so
yeah, who am I?
I am here with Matt, Emotional Portkey Hay.
Oh, Emotional Portkey.
Yeah. It's a good thing, I
that's
think.
true.
It's like you take me emotionally to
on an
you
emotional
jump around.
journey.
Exactly.
Through
Which
time.
I will say, no spoiler, but there was one aspect of this film that happened very close to the very beginning that had me wondering if you have the technology to transportate people instantaneously through a portkey, why would you ever use an unsecure means of transportation with like a saddle and a horse and, you know, like a carriage? Like, why would you ever do that if you can literally just touch a thing and transport people?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Could have saved a lot of problems. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Made things a lot better.
That's true.
But anyway, yeah.
That's a true story. My goodness. Okay. Good.
I just broke the whole film.
Good thought. You broke the film. Absolutely, for sure. So, we are definitely going to be talking about that. So, Fantastic Beasts.
We'll get back to that.
And The Crimes of Grindelwald, or Grindelwald, depending on, I guess, what part of Harry Potter land you live in. But yeah, welcome to the show, everybody. And if you're not, savvy to what we have going on here, we kind of break it down, The Real Review. We have two different perspectives, usually, kind of how we break down films. Joel is very critical, analytical, gets into the details, some of the stuff maybe that we've never heard of before. I'm like, that's a thing? Okay, that's a thing. I don't know, okay, whatever. And then, and he might seem a little bit negative at times. Doesn't necessarily mean he is. But then me, on the other hand, I'm a little bit more, was it fun? Did it take me on a journey? Was I emotionally satisfied? Did it take me to new heights emotionally with an emotional porthole key?
I'm laughing because that was a good example, but I already did that with my whole
exactly.
Key. Yeah,
exactly.
Funny. I was already breaking it down.
You were already giving an example
Analyzing.
of the type of person you are when you criticize a film.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. And but I can tend to. I mean, we both see a lot of things the same way. We both. We can vary.
Yeah,
too.
we tend to get to the same review for the most part. It's interesting.
Yeah,
from
we
different
always
sides.
like most of the times we're pretty close in our grades. It's just varies.
One or two films.
Yeah,
and we always just.
There's a couple
kind of
that were
embrace them.
we're like 15 points apart.
Star
we're like,
Wars.
what happened?
Yeah, some shark movies occasionally.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Anyways. Joel, why don't you tell everybody how they can get connected with us at The Real Review?
There's some great ways to get connected. We have our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. As well, we have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia. Additionally, we have Instagram and Twitter, which are both at Real Review Media. And we have our YouTube, which is youtube.com/therealreview. We would love to have you checking out the videos that we post up there, video reviews if you prefer. Some people like the audio. If you're podcasters, that's great. But if you want to check out the video review and see Matt's beautiful face and my ugly mug, check those out. And then last but not least,
hey, don't be that way.
I'm critical.
We both have
That's
ugly
my
mugs.
thing. There you go. All right. If you want to see our ugly mugs, check out, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, hear your thoughts and perspectives, especially on this film. It seems to be a bit of a controversial one for a few different reasons, at least compared to where we are, compared to like the general audience and reviewers. Send us an email, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts.
Do it.
There it is.
I was actually going to take a second to go back and look and remind myself what I scored the first one.
Okay.
because this film, let me just get into kind of what we do here, first of all. So Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, the second installment of the Fantastic Beasts series set in J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World, featuring the adventures of magizoologist Newt Scamander.
Yeah.
And it was directed by David Yates, yet again, who's got some great Harry Potter tenure. And then written again, J.K. Rowling. And then it's got Eddie Redmayne, Kevin Guthrie, Carmen Ejogo, Wolf Roth, Zoe Kravitz, Callum Turner, Johnny Depp, all those fun people, Ezra Miller. So there's a lot of people, other people in this film as well that you recognize from bit parts here and there. Overall, I think I enjoyed this movie more than I enjoyed the first film. I didn't think it was great though.
See, the thing is, I thought it was good.
Yeah,
and that's the weird thing.
I mean, it was fine. It's good. I just didn't think it was great. I mean,
I'm just gonna say, like right now, review wise, and we haven't even talked about the film. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, most likely. But it's getting like on the Rotten Tomatoes score, 39% of people. That means 39% of critics actually gave it a favorable review.
Right.
It's down by like the 5.4 out of 10 rating. As far as the audience score, it's a little higher. It's a 69%.
Okay.
Which is positive. It means more than a certain percent.
Most people
3.8 out of 5. I liked it a bit. I mean, I thought it was long.
Right.
Definitely felt a bit drawn out. But where I felt like the first film was lacking, maybe that this film in turn had more of, but then had lacking what the first film seemed to have more of. The first film really was more of a kind of fun kids romp into the world of the Fantastic Beasts and Newt Scamander and kind of Scamander and
like
all
salamander
in his kind of world, and it was interesting, but it didn't really feel like it was impactful in the world of Harry Potter. It felt like one degree of separation. This film felt very much connected. I mean, with the addition of Dumbledore in the script.
That was my favorite part of the movie is its connection threads to the Harry Potter universe just as a whole. It's with Hogwarts, Dumbledore.
Right. We're seeing characters that we recognize in the original trilogy, not just like as brief cameos,
right,
but play significant roles in the film.
Yeah.
And the stories that are playing out are stories that are tied into the world of Harry Potter and what happens during his time at Hogwarts and stuff. And with He Who Must Not Be Named.
Yeah.
But I felt like that significance in this film was there, and it made it more tangible and connected to me, not just because I'm familiar with that world, but because it felt like it had real stakes, and it had real importance to what was going on with the characters. And there was a lot bigger, deeper stakes that happened in this film. I mean, there's death, and it's not like just like, oh, someone died off screen, like a falling death. It's like death.
This movie is incredibly dark. Now, here's the thing. You mentioned this about the first film. I remember I went with my wife. I didn't actually review this movie. But I thought the first one was dark too, with the whole obscurial thing. That stuff was intense, and it was pretty dark in those moments. Some of the changes they made, though, from that to this one, I think the darker content works a little bit better, because in the first one, you're having this contrast of the fun, the kids, the animals, the beasts, it's fantastical.
It felt cartoony.
But then you have like this dark side of it is like really dark. It's like it's such a steep contrast that I don't felt like it worked as well as trying to be two things a little bit. This one, I felt like it was from the get-go. It was like dark and people were dying all over the place, it seemed like. And
there was one or two moments I kind of chuckled, especially in the beginning with Jacob and Queenie coming back in and of how that story played out. But then that got dark really quick.
Right.
And that continued to be a pretty dark part of the story. And even her whole story. And
the arc there, and then the arc of some of the other people in the story were pretty dark as well. I was like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And so it kind of left me feeling like, wow, this is it almost felt more of like an adult film at times.
Yeah, right. It set my expectation a little bit better, having that kind of be the way it was from the get-go, as opposed to having this juxtaposition in the first film of like, hey, fun, oh, this is kind of scary. Oh, hey, this is kind of scary. This one was like, oh, this is going to be super intense. It set the tone, and it was pretty much that way most of the way through.
And I don't want people to think, like, listening to this, that like, oh, well, they just like it because it's darker, because that's really not what it's about.
Right.
What it did for me, and I said this in the beginning, to restate it made the stakes higher. It made it feel like things were more impactful and important. And because of that, I was more able to connect in with the story and the characters. And it felt like the characters were making significant decisions. Whereas the first one, it almost just kind of felt like there was this brief little mystery mixed in with this guy having fun with these animals that he's trying to catch.
Yeah.
And for a kid's story, the first film, I think, was better. This film, legitimately, there were times where I'm like, I really had to follow it.
Yeah.
I really had to like, okay, that person's connected to that person,
Yep.
and this person's family line, and they did that, and this betrayal, and who that person is. You really had to be on board with it. I think like again, that's another way that this wasn't really as much for kids.
Right. No,
You know?
it's not. I think one of the benefits that this second film has going for this series is that it is it uses Newt and Jacob more sparingly. In the first film, I think that they were fine. I was never really a huge Newt Scamander guy. I like Jacob, but he was a little too much like... I remember talking about this, actually. He's a little too much like, hey, look at me, I'm being funny right now. That's kind of the vibe that I got from him.
Jacob or Newt?
Jacob,
yeah.
Okay. Newt was always just a little off-putting in the way that he was acting around people. I'm like, I can't really, there's some charm to that. I get that. But this one, it uses him less. So there's a lot more focus on Grindelwald, Jacob, and some of the other characters that I like that focus. It was spread out more. Yeah. There's obviously less of the fantastical beasts element, but there were some in there that were kind of cool too. There's not really a lot of things bad with this movie. There's a lot of death in this movie, and they don't mess around. I will say this: I did really like Johnny Depp as Grindelwald, and I will say that, and I was telling you this beforehand too. He in most roles that he plays, he's like a cartoon character, right? He was very understated, very like kind of calm, cool, collected, and like talked like a normal person. Like that's what I liked about his character, and it was just refreshing. Whether or not it was people just overall enjoyed the character or not, I think I was just more refreshed. Like, hey, he's not a weirdo. Yeah,
he looked weird.
Yeah, he looked weird, but he wasn't like he didn't.
Right. I kind of wish they had toned down the eye thing.
Right.
I think if they had gotten rid of the eye, I know why they did it. They're trying to give him a look. It was probably in the book. But that was distracting for me, honestly, because it was like he looked kind of goofy. Yeah. But like you said, he played a very straightforward, maniacal, kind of evil dictator in a sense.
He's very manipulative in the way that he was talking with people.
Very intelligent, suave, and it was very effective because it kind of puts you on edge, and it like you can tell what he's doing. Yeah. And you can be like, you could see how somebody that would be easily manipulated to follow him would. If it's a person that's given to the likelihood of wanting to have like wizards be in charge, then the way he's putting this, the way he's saying this is like, well, of course we're just trying to do what's right. We're just trying to prevent this, and we're trying to, and it felt realistic. Yeah. I liked his turn this as well. I think he kind of at times felt a little off to me and a little flat. I don't know what it was about him in particular. I think he did a good job with the performance, but he just seemed a little disconnected at times from the role, that it just kind of threw me off a little bit. I can't exactly put my finger on it. I don't want to say it was like he was drunk or something like that, but there was just something about it where it was like he would be simultaneously sometimes in the moment and not. Yeah. And so it was a little off-putting. To reference back to your point that you made about the first film, I think what did a lot of disservice for me in the first one was as well when they played so much into the story of Tina and Queenie and Jacob and Newt. Yeah. They're good characters individually, but they're not leading characters in a way to me. They all play a very good, like, going throughout the story kind of a character. Sure. Because they're all weird and quirky and awkward, and that can work. Like, you can have the group of misfits that kind of all comes together and is able to accomplish what they need to, but it was a little bit too weird most of the time. Each of their quirks was a little bit too awkward, a little bit too strange. I mean, I remember
to have it all together.
Right. I remember so many times in that first movie where there would just be these awkward pauses and kind of like long, silent stares between the characters. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to be experiencing right now? I remember that. Like, I remember Tina. And
I don't remember that.
But yeah. And I just remember like these awkward, because Newt's kind of a quiet guy. He's a loner. You know what I mean? and he's kind of off-putting, when you have all these off-putting characters and you solo make the film about them, it's hard to connect in with the story.
Right.
So for that reason, because it was jumping to a lot of different characters and stories, it was easier to stay on board for mainly it really just felt like the story that was taking place.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel like it was like Newt's story or Jacob's
That's
story.
what I think I liked about it. It was very narrative driven as opposed to character driven. I love Jude Law as Dumbledore. Mm-hmm. I don't know, something about that just fits it, like in my picturing what a young Dumbledore might be like, and I think it works. I think it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, he aged a ton is all I'm going to say between the events of this and Harry Potter.
And grew a bunch of hair.
Yeah, he grew a bunch of hair and he got older, and so it makes sense. I think Jude Law's
and I do like
age wise kind of fitting.
I like how Credence is a semi focus of the film, but not like as much of it was in the first one as well.
Yeah.
It was all about him right there. It's about him, but like it's not just about him a little bit in this, and I think I like that. I like his character too better this time around.
He was the mystery of the first film, whereas this one had like 2 or 3 different mysteries going on. That's what I'm saying. You really had to kind of pay attention and figure out like, crud, what's about to happen here? What's going on here? And there was a big, reveal
at the very
end. We won't get into that right now, at least. But I saw it coming as soon as we got to a certain point, but I was still like, what? Like it kind of shocked me a little bit.
Didn't explain it, but
didn't explain it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned that just kind of got thrown in to like add something.
Like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Let's make him this person.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's that. And
okay.
So,
like, okay,
what?
let's roll.
It's like
it's okay. We have 2 more years before we got to make another one of these things, and we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out in post. It's okay. Yeah. So
that's funny.
It was a little weird, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to kind of see where that goes and how that plays out. And I liked how they kind of delved into some family issues and some darker past type stuff.
Yeah.
The problems of, parents raising kids in a certain way and how that plays out through childhood, and then people that are just kind of the mindset that I'm going to be bad, or then the manipulations of powers and how that can change weak-minded people or people that have open ears to hear anything. It was all this very interesting stuff, and it's not even like a political thing. It's just whatever side of the spectrum you're on,
you could probably find something in it.
Yeah, you can say this side does that or that side does that.
Yeah. I'd say for me, I think I'm going to get into the negatives here. So my problems with this movie, there's 2 things. Everything else I'm okay with. I'm totally fine with. These are my 2 problems. One, you have to go into this movie knowing what happened in the first one, or have just seen the first one recently. Yeah.
Agreed.
Because I was watching it and we were talking about this. It took me a long time to really remember some of these people. Like, who is that again? And I really like the Harry Potter franchise, but the Fantastic Beasts, I've only seen the first one time.
Right.
And so I was like kind of struggling. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm supposed to care about this. Why am I supposed to care about this at this moment? And it really took time for me to either go through that, or some of the things I had to go research it after the fact. Oh yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
That, and there were a couple of times where I felt like this movie was a placeholder for the next one.
Okay.
And not the whole time, but there were a couple times I'm like, this kind of feels like it's ramping us up into something else. Where it's like, that's its main purpose in this moment. Like that's really just to bring us to the next chapter.
This definitely felt like at least a 2-parter.
Right.
I will say as well with that though, I feel like if they tried to shove everything they needed to into one film, it probably would.
Oh, it would have been a huge film.
Huge film with way too much in there, lacking depth.
I'm not saying that they should have. I sometimes I felt like this is more of just a ramp up to something as opposed to its own self-contained story the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I think
but I did like it. So it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There was just times I was like,
Yeah, I think they've planned up to Fantastic Beasts 5.
That's what I heard too.
So they're trying to, I'm assuming, really ramp up the story to make enough runway for 5 films. And I kind of see this as like, I mean, it was Harry Potter light, but now it's becoming like Harry Potter the remake in a way if they're doing 5.
That's what I like about it. All the Harry Potter like references with Hogwarts and all that stuff. I loved all that stuff in this movie.
What I was going to say is, I don't know. with the first couple, like at least the first two Harry Potters, you really just took a lot of time to get into the world.
It's world building.
The wizarding world, building the characters, telling their stories, their associations with the other characters and how that's moving. And then by like the third and the fourth movie, that's when you really start getting into some of the histories of some of the characters and the darker, deeper areas that they've gone in their pasts and where they're going to be going and why they're there.
Right.
And so it feels okay.
Yeah.
Because you've had time to really slowly, it's kind of boiling pot, like you're slowly boiling into that. Whereas with this, it was kind of like the first film was kind of silly and fun, and you had this one dark element that was a mystery. And then all of a sudden at the very end of the film, it like blows up, into this thing. And now this film is like, here is everything on your plate. It's so much there. So I don't know how they would have done it. That's the thing. I don't know how they would have done it.
I don't know either.
But
it's just a feeling I kind of had.
My critique as well would be something along the lines, if they could have figured out a way to kind of smoothen that out a little bit. Yeah. Not make it quite so deep, quite so dark, but to kind of play it out more lightheartedly interesting. Because, I mean, there's
know what?
What?
Credence reminded me, and actually Credence had one of my favorite scenes of the movie is I was like, dang.
Yeah.
He reminded me of like Jean Grey Phoenix from X-Men, but like under control a little bit. And I was like, wow, that is a power, man.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that scene. I'm trying to think. There's something else I wanted to say. I forget, but it's all good.
With Credence, specifically the actor Ezra Miller, he, I got to go to the panel for this at San Diego Comic-Con this year. And he was wearing such a crazy costume. Yeah. I believe it. Yeah. Like, just go look it up. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But he's wearing such a crazy costume that I had a hard time at first. Like, I was afraid that, like, I'm going to see him on screen. I'm only going to see him in that costume on screen. But he was so, like, muted in comparison to how he was when he was on stage and everything that it didn't end up being all that big of a problem for me. But I was slightly concerned about that. Do you want to give a review and then just slightly dip into like a little bit of
do that.
Deeper talk, spoiler talk?
Yeah. I'm going to give it an 81.
81.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually going to go a little higher.
Okay.
I was close to the 90-ish range, but then I started having some like, that kind of stuff. So I'm actually giving it an 86.
Cool.
Which is pretty high for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a little lower for me, but I liked it. It's definitely better than okay. So and they're going to call the fifth Fantastic Beast. It's going to be called Fantastic Beats and How to Make Them with DJ Scamander. It's going to be super rad.
Yeah, Jacob's going to be on the mic. Yo.
Waka, waka, waka. It's going to be sweet. Anyways, let's break it down. So if you have not seen this movie, we're going to dive into full spoiler territory right now. So feel free to turn that off, stop watching, stop listening, whatever that is. We're going to get into spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Lita dies.
Lenny Kravitz's daughter dies. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Couple babies die.
So bad.
Jeez, people died all over the place in this movie. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That was pretty dark. I mean, I knew they were going to probably go there, but it was still...
that's hard for me. I mean, nothing has been as shocking to me as a child dying as like the original Pet Sematary or It from last year.
Yeah.
But like 2 kids die in this movie. They don't show it.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of show one of them.
Kind of. Well, they kind of show both almost. I mean, you see a little bit of a dead baby body at one point.
It was not okay. Like I was like, I heard a little bit, then I was like, all right, I get the point. Bad stuff is happening.
I mean, that was dark too. I mean, when she looks in the mirror and sees what's the I forget the beast, but when they show you your biggest fear, they turn to your biggest fear.
Yeah.
And you see the cloth floating down, and I was just like, she's afraid of bedding? Like,
I'm
like, I hope we revisit this.
Yeah.
And then when they got there, I was like, oh man, that would have been a really dark scene to like see as a bunch of kids.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, to witness that. And then I was like, man, maybe they shouldn't do this in front of a bunch of people. Like,
what is this movie rated?
I think PG-13. But I'm like, what if you're most scared of like naked men?
It is PG-13. Then that's inappropriate for all the other surrounding people watching you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it's just you and the professor, or a couple professors, and you do this test. But like, why would you do this in front? Exactly. It's like, this is getting very inappropriate.
Where did that even come from?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if it turns into your biggest fear, and that's your biggest fear, like, I don't know. Like,
so
I'm afraid of being naked in public, and a picture like you pop up naked in public.
Great. Okay. Well, you basically, okay. Thanks, guys. Okay, it's been great. Thanks, Dumbledore. Dumbledore. I appreciate that.
Thanks for embarrassing me in front of all my
so
friends.
we find out that Credence is really Alf something Dumbledore. He's like a half brother of Albus Dumbledore or something, right?
That's like crazy because I don't, as far as I can recall, I'm just going to say, I read the books only all the way through once. I wanted to read them again. I just haven't had time. I don't recall them ever mentioning he had a brother.
This is a new development.
Right. I think this is completely new.
But he must have just forgot about it. No, he didn't forget about it. He let's not tell anybody about this or something
like
at the end of this series.
Yeah, because I know he had a sister. Because his sister played a big role in how he developed into being Dumbledore. He even talks about it in this film.
It's just, I don't know. It's gonna be odd. That's kind of maybe why you had that idea of why they maybe shoehorned in hey, that's the reveal. Although I will say I did kind of do a dang after he did his where he blew up a mountain.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That was pretty impactful. He must really not like mountains.
Right.
I don't know.
So he blows up a mountain and then I was like,
hate
okay.
Beautiful scenery.
I am a Dumbledore. I can blow up mountains.
I don't know where that puts me. I wasn't, at first I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just kind of like, I don't really know what they're going to do with it. I don't know how they're going to explain it.
I really liked...
I liked in this movie the stakes and the sense that people were willing to be betrayed, or not willing to be betrayed, but they went into some dark side, specifically Queenie and her siding with Grindelwald.
I don't fully understand how she came to that conclusion.
I think, honestly...
Because it was hey, I know who you are. He walked towards her, and then the scene ended.
Jacob, they didn't really, because there's so much going on in the moment. I think that was one of the things they lost, is some of the impacts of some of those things that happened right around then. But it really felt like she was looking for something.
Right.
She's been looking for something. She thought Jacob was going to be that.
Yeah.
Turned out not to be the case because Jacob couldn't fully invest in the relationship.
Yeah.
And she's doing what she thinks is right. She's going into the direction, but she's a weak-minded individual. As crazy as everything is in her head.
So she's susceptible to Jedi mind tricks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think she thinks that she's doing what's right.
Yeah.
It was the same thing that Letta Lestrange did, but the difference is she did what she thought was right, and it actually was the right thing, and it was for the right reasons. Whereas Queenie's doing what she thinks is for the right reasons, but she's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
In my mind. So... Again, one of the biggest downfalls of the movie actually was for me as well, the very, very beginning. Why would you ever
transport Grindelwald like that?
Transport a prisoner Grindelwald when you had a portkey?
I don't know.
They were just taking him from one ministry to another. You're telling me that the two ministries don't use portkeys or don't have portkeys? I'm like,
maybe they're susceptible to being hacked.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
But yeah, right away, Grindelwald, they're like, yeah, he's in his jail cell. And they're like, yeah, we had to cut out his tongue or something like that. And then they were like, yeah, and then he basically kills the whole transportation unit,
except for the main minister
why.
guy, which they never explained that either. Yeah,
right.
They never explained how the whole switch happened, which that was a dark thing for them to talk about. You mentioned they just cut out his tongue.
Yeah, and that guy was willing to get his tongue cut out.
Yeah.
For him?
When did the switch?
Yeah.
I don't know when the switch took place and why. I really did I think as well, like you said, I like Jude Law's character. The blood pact aspect is going to be interesting to see play out. I don't understand why it would be that difficult to destroy, but I guess maybe a wizarding thing. That it's probably going to be a big focus of the next movie is figuring out how to break that blood bond that he has with Grindelwald, so that way he can actually fight Grindelwald. I'm trying to remember the conversation, or the how much we already know about the relationship Grindelwald and Dumbledore had.
I thought they were together.
They were.
They didn't really make that clear in this film.
J.K. Rowling never explained that until after.
Right.
She said that they just meant a lot to each other, and then they explained it after.
So I thought they were in a relationship, and I don't remember hearing though. They didn't explain that here. They just said they had a blood bond.
Right.
And they were he said they were closer than brothers, and they never really elaborated. I don't know if there's it just seems very interpret it how you want to interpret it kind of a thing. But
yeah, I think they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to not be overly offensive to people that might go what?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, so they have this thing now where if he can destroy it, then he's able to then physically fight Grindelwald.
Right, which I'm sure he'll still do begrudgingly. I don't think he's I get to go fight this guy that I knew and was very close to.
Right.
Who knows? Yeah. So
interesting.
There was a couple of aspects of things that felt unnecessary. in a way, the whole role that I forget the character's name, but he was the one that took Tina captive and was trying to track down Credence and kill him. He felt kind of unnecessary.
He was Lita Lestrange's like half brother.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt like it was important but unnecessary. I felt like he could have probably they could have cut some aspects of that out. The whole story with one of Grindelwald's henchmen being killed and choosing not to, work with them was kind of understandable but unimportant. The fact that he just
important.
You killed him at the end. Yeah. There was just some elements of things that plays at times that it just felt like, okay, well, I get this is an expanded universe. And you're trying to like build out the relationships of the characters and make them seem like they're more than just a simple story. But it just kind of felt like, at times. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I got emotionally really invested at times and was definitely at times was like, especially during the scene where, Credence is finally meeting that young the woman that had helped raise him, and then she ends up getting killed. It's like, what?
Yeah,
that was really sad.
That was pretty sad.
Yeah.
But that was right after the scene that I thought was pretty sweet too. Like that, I really like that scene where he's like, the house explodes, and then he like makes everything come back at him.
That was amazing.
I was like, wow, that was cool.
Visually, it was cool. The fight was really cool. Then the final fight at the very end, which wasn't even really a fight, but it was very visually
like the
intense.
Dragons, the like blue fire dragons, the Grindelwald dragons,
very intense.
And they did say that they have to stop this or it'll destroy all of Paris.
Yeah,
that was what. Okay, yeah.
They definitely raised the stakes on the magic.
Right.
You know what I mean? It used to like in the biggest magic fight we ever had was Dumbledore and Voldemort in, was it Order of the Phoenix?
Right, where I love that one.
Where they're fighting in the Ministry.
And watch Harry Potter again. That's great.
Yeah, I mean that was like the biggest magic fight they ever had, and the stakes were big there. But like even at the very end of the Harry Potter series, like that fight was mostly like the same spells getting shot back and forth. It was just like Avada Kedavra spells and then like explosive spells. That was like the two spells that were going back and forth. And even his fight with Voldemort, Harry's fight with Voldemort is basically them just running and punching and trying to shoot each other and missing. Whereas this is like, you got flame dragons shooting up and things are stopping in midair and it's just like craziness all over the place.
I thought this was odd. I did like watching it because it was cute, but they had like a slow-mo scene of that like platypus like shooting himself across the room on a cork.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning. I was
odd,
like,
but kind of funny.
Yeah, I was like,
he could have just gone, where?
I know.
It would have been like, oh, that was kind of funny, actually.
But they like spent a good chunk of time on that for some reason. Like,
well, the whole scene in the beginning there was kind of awkward. I'm not sure I forget her name, but the lady that's like his assistant, I don't know what her story is. Maybe his mom.
That was weird. It seemed like she liked him.
Yeah. But they added like a lot of depth to that. Like he
goes, maybe you should take off your shirt.
It's not his mom. Yeah, she was interested in that. Yeah, but and then he keeps saying like, no, you can leave. No, you can leave. No, you can. He has to say it like 3 times. Yeah. And the scene gets like drawn out. And that's what I'm saying. There's like just some stuff. It felt long at times.
There was some stuff that they weren't explaining. Like he was like trying to wrestle or like help that like lion or that cat dragon thing. And he was like getting knocked around and getting hurt.
Yeah.
And then like he just like helps it and then like, okay, so I thought he was like in trouble.
Yeah. You mean when he was in the suitcase?
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Because he jumps in and you think he's going to be like trying to like wrangle it and he's literally just like laying there. Like I was like, okay.
I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Cool. That's the key to working with animals, folks. Just play dead.
It was a duster. It was a feather duster with a little cat face on it.
Yeah.
Going,
yeah.
It's like catnip.
Definitely takes a special kind of person to be able to figure out that that's what would work.
Right.
Like it makes you wonder though, like if the cat thing was black or purple, would it have responded the same way? Does it have to make a ding-a-ling noise?
Yeah.
Like was it any feather boa thing would have worked?
Only Newt Scamander knows this.
See,
He's a magizoologist. He knows what's up. He studied that. That was his concentration in major.
Don't get too into that.
In Hogwarts College.
Yeah. But there was some cool stuff. I mean, even the way he was investigating the crime scene was like,
that was cool.
We've never seen magic like this before. He's able to like look through time. And
so ultimately, wizards are better CSIs than actual CSIs.
It's weird. It just seems like the magic was a lot better in the past.
Right.
I don't know what it was.
They stopped using it in the future.
It's like they did. Yeah. It's like I remember the very first movie. Like the first like real magic we see is that Dumbledore like sucks the light out of all the lampposts, and it took him like 10 seconds. He's like
instead of just all at once.
Yeah, and this one they would just go bloop, and all the lights would go blop like that. That's sound effects.
Maybe it's just just getting up there in age and couldn't do all that at the same time.
I'm just like, things have changed. How they've changed.
Times have changed. Yeah. It's all good. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up, I think, for our review of the film. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
We've talked plenty.
No, not so much. We've talked plenty, you guys.
Going on 40 minutes here.
Yeah, anyways. So if you guys got a chance to see the movie, let us know what you thought about it. Email us at realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Let us know if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you're excited for the next 3 sequels that are slated to come out. If you want to see a film called Fantastic Beats and Where to Find Them with DJ Scamander, let us know. Yeah. I would try and make that happen using my iMovie on my phone. For
the sequel to this is going to be Dumbledore, How to Lose a Guy in 10 years.
Anyways, so that's going to wrap up the show. Find us on Facebook.com, Instagram, Twitter at Real Review Media, YouTube.com/The Real Review, and RealReviewMedia.com. REEL as in real, film reel, all that fun stuff. Fishing reel too, if you want to get into the logistics. Anyways, but that's going to be it. Anything else you want to add?
I'm good. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. And it's been real.
It's been real.